1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. It's Friday. Fishing Shirt Friday. There is a quandary. The quandary is, since it's becoming winter, what do we do with Fishing Shirt Friday? Do we change it to something else? We'll think about that and get back to you. Hopefully you'll get back to me because I'm asking you for an idea. So anyway, back to the show. What do we do here? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We deprogram, depropagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary, not news. That is not news. Commentary is not news, it's opinion. Yours and mine, and therefore we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. We start our broadcast with the front page, a digest of news since yesterday's broadcast and while we were asleep. The Israeli-Hamas war leads the news again today. Hamas commanders, 19 operatives killed by Israeli forces, this being reported by Fox News. Israeli forces conducting airstrikes in northern Gaza this morning as Israel-Hamas war enters its 34th day. The reports are that 3 hospitals in the northern Gaza Strip are reportedly surrounded by Israeli Defense Force troops, while an undisclosed number of civilians are inside being treated. The hospitals are believed to be where Hamas militants are hiding. Overnight, the IDF said it killed a handful of Hamas Nukba terrorists, that's Nukba terrorists, including 2 commanders who participated in the October 7th attack on Israel. Ahmad Musa, the company commander, Omar Hindi, the platoon commander, and 2 leaders were killed in western Jabalia. That was based on IDF and Israeli Security Authority intelligence. The Israeli Defense Forces also say they've arrested 41 Palestinians in an overnight raid in the West Bank. The military said today, that 14 of those arrested were Hamas terrorists. The Israeli military said it also destroyed the homes of 2 terrorists it said carried out an attack that killed an Israeli woman and seriously wounded an Israeli man in August. At the time, an offshoot of the secular nationalist Fatah Party, the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, claimed responsibility for the attack. Israeli forces sealed a shop in Hebron, which they said was used to print incendiary materials for Hamas. They also raided 3 West Bank neighborhoods where they confiscated weapons. The IDF has arrested 1,540 Palestinians on the West Bank, 930 of whom were identified as terrorists since the start of the war with Hamas. Hezbollah says 7 fighters were killed on the road to Jerusalem. The Lebanese terrorist group Hezbollah said 7 of its fighters were killed today, but did not offer specifics other than to say they were martyred on the road to Jerusalem. A Hezbollah official and a Lebanese security official said the 7 fighters were killed in neighboring Syria. That happened this morning, according to the Associated Press. Pro-government Syria media outlets reported an Israeli airstrike on the central province of Homs. That was early today. Iran-backed Hezbollah is allied with the Syrian government and in recent years has sent forces to Syria to assist Iranian ally President Bashar Assad against armed opposition groups. The Israeli Defense Force said today that it struck targets in Syria in response to a drone strike on the Red Sea city of Eilat, where Israel said they said rockets had been fired from Israel. Let me try this one more time. The Israeli Defense Force said today that it struck targets in Syria in response to a drone strike on the Red Sea of Eilat that Israel said was fired from Syria. It's actually flown from Syria if it's a drone. Hezbollah said 68 of their fighters had been killed since the Israeli-Hamas war began. The top UN human rights official is calling for an investigation into what he calls Israeli indiscriminate bombardment and shelling of densely populated areas in the Gaza Strip. Speaking in the Jordanian capital today, Volker Turk said Israel must immediately end the use of such methods and means of warfare, and the attacks must be investigated, according to the Associated Press. Citing civilian casualty figures provided by the Hamas-led health ministry in Gaza, Turk said that Israel's targeting of civilian infrastructure raises serious concerns that these amount to disproportionate attacks in breaches of international humanitarian law. Israel said Hamas terrorists hide military targets among civilian infrastructure and has released videos showing rocket launchers inside Boy Scout clubs and other places. The IDF alleges that Hamas has placed its main military compound beneath the Al-Shifa hospital, the largest hospital in Gaza. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh announced yesterday there have been 56 injuries total to U.S. service members since October 17th from attacks originating in Iraq and Syria. Singh says this includes 25 cases of traumatic brain injury. According to Singh, all have returned to duty, including 2 service members who are being treated at Landstuhl, Germany, for their TBIs. On Wednesday of this week, U.S. forces conducted a self-defense airstrike on a Syrian weapons storage facility. The strike was conducted by 2 F-15 fighters, targeting the Maysalun weapons storage facility in eastern Syria, according to the Department of Defense. The president has no higher priority than the safety of U.S. personnel. He directed today's action to make clear the U.S. will defend itself, its personnel, and its interests. This, according to Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, speaking on Wednesday. A Palestinian who is heralded as a hero and compared to Rosa Parks by liberal media after she assaulted an IDF soldier in Nabi Salah, a village in the West Bank, was arrested on Monday of this week by the IDF for allegedly inciting terrorism and calling to drink the blood of Jews. Quote, the IDF has carried out a substantial number of counterterrorism activities since October 7th, has apprehended hundreds of suspects. Overnight, the IDF carried out an activity to apprehend individuals suspected of involvement in terror activity and incitement, according to the Israeli Defense Force. During the activity, Ahed Tamimi, who was suspected of inciting violence and calling for terrorist activity to be carried out, was apprehended in the town of Nabe Salih. Tamimi was transferred to Israeli security forces for further questioning. Ahed Tamimi's arrest pertained to a social media post, allegedly from her social media account, which said, quote, Our message to the herd of settlers. We are waiting for you all in the West Bank, in cities from Hebron to Jenin. We will slaughter you, and you will say what Hitler did to you was a joke. We will drink your blood and eat your skulls. Come on. We're waiting for you. The image posted to IG Stories allegedly said that very statement. Tamimi was an icon to the liberal media after an Israeli military court sentenced her to 8 months in prison for slapping and kicking 2 IDF soldiers in 2018. The assault featured glorified coverage in liberal media outlets. In news of the states this morning, out of Tennessee, tragic news from CNN, a Belmont University freshman has died after being hit in the head by a stray bullet while walking on a trail near the Nashville campus. Jillian Ludwig, she was 18 years of age, was shot Tuesday afternoon as she walked on a track in Edge Hill Memorial Gardens Park, according to Metropolitan Nashville Police. Sadly, Julian Ludwig passed away during the night, the department said on social media. A suspect in custody or is in custody in the shooting, which happened around 2:24 p.m. A man on a street near the park opened fire on a moving car. Ludwig immediately collapsed, but was not found until about an hour later when someone passing by spotted her, then called police. She was taken to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in extremely critical condition and again passed away last night. Out of New York, a man used a gun to stop a subway mugging and then got arrested. This from Fox News. New York police have arrested a man who they say opened fire on a subway platform Tuesday that scared off a would-be mugger who himself is facing attempted robbery charges. No one was hurt in the altercation, which erupted after a 49-year-old homeless man allegedly tried to mug an unidentified 40-year-old woman near the exit of the subway. The NYPD then arrested John Rote, 43 years of age, of Queens, hours after asking for the public's help to track him down in connection with an altercation on the 49th Street NRW station. That platform happened, the shooting on the platform happened the evening before. Rote overheard Matthew Resch, the mugging suspect, demanding that the woman give him money or he'd steal her purse, according to authorities. Rote faces charges of criminal possession of a weapon, reckless endangerment, criminal possession of a firearm, and menacing. The city's top transit official, Richard Davey, said in a statement after Rote's arrest, "I want to be clear, we don't tolerate this kind of conduct in the NYC transit system, period." Once again, cameras recorded a perpetrator. "We are grateful the NYPD made the arrest within hours. Thank goodness no one was hurt here. But what occurred was outrageous, reckless, and unacceptable." Not discussing the mugging, discussing the stopping of it with warning shots fired by a New York City resident. Out of North Carolina, this from USA Today. An orthodontist office in North Carolina has stirred up controversy with its new Grins and Glocks promotion. That's a deal that offers guns to patients along with certain dental procedures. Gladwell Orthodontics, a practice owned by Dr. Jason Gladwell, had begun advertising the inclusion of a free Glock 19 handgun for patients who received Invisalign treatment in his office. According to local radio station or local television station WFAB Channel 9, the deal allows Invisalign patients to choose between a free Glock worth $500 or a membership at the local Youngsville Gun Club and Range. The promotion was originally offered to people already on the club's email list, but it began drawing widespread attention as locals heard about it. Out of Arkansas, this from Fox News, a military veteran has received the first ever whole eye and partial face transplant. The recipient was 46-year-old Aaron James of Hot Springs, Arkansas. He was working as an electrical lineman in 2021 when his face touched a live wire. He was hit with 7,200 volts of electricity. As a result of the accident, James lost his left eye, most of his left arm, his nose and lips, his front teeth, his left cheek area, and his chin. This according to a press release from NYU Langone Health. He described June 10th, 2021, the day of the accident, as, quote, "a day I don't remember, but one I'll never forget." He also said it was a test of strength and willpower. "From the time I woke up from a 6-week coma, they were already talking about a possible chance of a face transplant." The 21-hour surgery was led by Eduardo Rodriguez. He's a medical doctor and dentist, the director of the face transplant program and chair of the Hans-Georg Weiss Department of Plastic Surgery at NYU Langone. Out of New Jersey today, the FBI search continues for Gregory Yetman. Actually, it's already ended. Gregory Yetman, who escaped after federal and local police officers attempted to arrest him in connection with the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, was taken into custody in New Jersey, according to the FBI this morning. Yetman was identified in a March USA Today investigation about people wanted in the Capitol riot. Authorities attempted to serve an arrest warrant at his home earlier this week. He escaped, and a manhunt continued through last night. Last night, the FBI issued a wanted poster for Yetman, listing his alleged crimes, including assault on officers, obstructing law enforcement, and physical violence on the grounds of the Capitol. The FBI has set a $10,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. That is today's front page. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining me. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Ginny Bayless says good morning. Yvonne Field says good morning on our chat room. You can find that at Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, and Patreon. So, yesterday, I always do a Substack column, and I was peacefully minding my own business, doing what I do, and I closed the Word document that I used to write it and never saw it again. The entire thing disappeared. That did not happen today because I turned on autosave, so we will have a Substack column on or from the Wells Report. Back with more coming up in just a couple of moments for Friday morning.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. This is the Veterans Day weekend. And I hope that you celebrate those people who gave us our country. I certainly do. Especially on this day, the birthday of the United States Marine Corps, November 10th, 1775. Tunn's Tavern, Philadelphia, United States Marine Corps came to be and now celebrates its 248th birthday. For those who have earned the title of Marine, November 10th is celebrated as if it's their own birthday, serving as a yearly reminder of the brave spirit that compelled young men and women to defend this nation and interests for more than 2 centuries. That according to the website marines.com. To honor service members past and present, please take a moment to learn 5 things you need to know about the U.S. Marines. Samuel Nichols, a former Quaker who was kicked out of his community for joining the revolution, was commissioned as a captain when the Marines were officially approved. His desire to support American independence conflicted with the Quaker peace testimony against all war. Helen J. File, facilities director of the world's largest Quaker meeting house, told the Chicago Tribune in 2008. Under the authority of the Second Continental Congress, Nicholas set up a recruiting headquarters at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia with the help of the tavern's owner. The 1st Marines served on land and sea. Their operations included the America's first amphibious raid into the Bahamas in March of 1776, led by Nicholas, according to Marine Corps University. Semper Fi, Semper Fidelis wasn't always the motto of the U.S. Marine Corps. The Corps adopted the Latin phrase Semper Fidelis in 1883. Before that, Marines used 3 unofficial mottos, by sea and by land. Fortitudine, and to the shores of Tripoli, this according to Marine Corps University. Semper Fidelis is the motto of every Marine, an eternal and collective commitment to the success of battles, progress of our nation, and the steadfast loyalty to fellow Marines we fight alongside. The moment captured of Marines planting the American flag on Iwo Jima during World War II was one of the most iconic war photographs in history. Yet one of the 6 men identified in the photo was actually not in the image the Marine Corps determined in 2016. Because of the error, Private First Class Harold Schultz has not been listed among those in the picture. A representative of the Marine Corps said, while it's important to set the record straight and honor Schultz's memory, what's most important is what the photo represents, the spirit of the Marines. Simply stated, our fighting spirit is captured in that frame, and it remains a symbol of the tremendous accomplishments of the Corps. What they did together and what they represent remains the most important, according to Marine Corps Commandant General Robert Neller. Marines go on to a variety of careers, but astronaut may be the most exciting. John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth, is one of the most famous veterans of the Marines. Other famous Marines include Oscar-nominated actor Adam Driver and comedian Drew Carey. As of March of 2022, the Marine Corps reports having 184,000 members, according to the Department of Defense. U.S. Marine Corps falls under the Department of the Navy, the men's department. Just kidding, guys. I'm talking to the Navy sailors. However, its command structure is similar to the Army's, except it follows the rule of 3 and includes Marine Expeditionary Forces and aircraft wings. The Marines are divided into 4 groups: operating forces that do the actual fighting, headquarters for leadership, supporting establishment that provides logistics, and the Marine Corps Reserve, this according to the DoD. Their members are younger on average than the Air Force, Army, and Navy. This is according to a 2016 report from the Marine Corps Community Services. Celebrate the day. Thank a Marine. I'm going to thank 2. Master Sergeant Darth L. Shelton and Gunnery Sergeant Sam Broadhead, who taught me so many things about the United States Marine Corps, about being a man, and about life and service, which I practice to this day in my Texas State Guard. I took all that education with me from those men, and I owe the United States Marine Corps a great deal through the work of those incredible people. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells thanking you for being with us this morning. We are going to talk as we come back about more of the Israeli-Hamas war and where it stands today on day 34 of the conflict. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. Call us when you can.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
And this is one of those times where what has happened is that I hit the I hit the wrong stop set. You know those commercials that we play? I've got one that's 4 minutes, except this is a 5-minute window. So there you go. Let me bring us up to date on what's going on with our chat room. Yvonne Field says, good morning on Fishing Shirt Friday. By the way, you can send pictures of yourself in your fishing shirts to the Wells Report group on Facebook. That would be nice. I'd like that. Let's see. Ginny Bayless says good morning also. It seems like you can't walk out your front door without wondering whether or not you're going to get shot. That's kind of sort of where I live right now. I have a concealed weapons permit, and I'm consistently armed. Let's see. Mike says, good morning, JD. Good morning. Happy Friday. Wishing a somber Veterans Day. Well, it's not necessarily somber for Veterans Day. Memorial Day, yes, it's somber. Veterans Day, on the other hand, is a celebration of the people who gave us our country, Mikey. This is the Wells Report. Welcome back. My name is John David Wells. I came back a minute early, but I was just babbling along with the chat room. You can find that chat room on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, also Patreon and Rumble. As we give you the news and the issues of the day, let's spend a bit of time discussing what's going on in Israel and Gaza. It's day 34 of the conflict, and it's already early evening there. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken today gave one of his most direct condemnations of the civilian death toll in Gaza today. Quote, far too many Palestinians have been killed. Far too many have suffered in these past weeks, Blinken said at a press availability in the Indian capital of New Delhi. He added more needs to be done to minimize harm to Palestinian civilians. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Forces announced a 6-hour-long window of today for an evacuation corridor along the Salah ad-Din Street for people to flee south from northern Gaza. Some of the latest developments include as follows. This, by the way, from CNN. Hospital is completely surrounded. The director of a hospital in northern Gaza has warned the medical center is completely surrounded by tanks, making it impossible to leave. Mustafa al-Kalout, who heads Al Nasser Hospital and Al Rantisi Pediatric Hospital, urged for an evacuation of doctors and patients inside as fighting intensifies. The Al-Shifa Hospital, several social media videos show people injured in what was described as the outpatient clinic of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. It's unclear what struck the hospital, but videos show injured people lying on the ground of the outdoor clinic. Witnesses in the videos said it was due to strikes in the area. CNN could not verify potential strikes, has reached out to the Israeli Defense Forces. The top UN nations, or the top United Nations human rights officials, said nowhere in Gaza is safe and raised doubts over Israel's unilateral establishment of safe zones in Gaza, saying nowhere within the territory was safe for civilians. Demands for civilians to relocate to an Israeli Defense Force designated safe zone. Also very alarming, said UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk at a news conference in Amman, Jordan today. Israeli attacks in Gaza have resulted in the deaths of 11,025 Palestinians. This since October 7th, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Ramallah, which draws its figures from the Hamas-controlled health ministry in Gaza. CNN cannot independently verify these numbers. Once again, you have to keep something in mind here. The UN is essentially a collection of anti-Jewish bigots. It is hopelessly anti-Jewish. And you simply cannot, when you are confronted with the death of 14 of your citizens through terrorist means from a particular section of your country's territory, which is Gaza, you can't just simply walk away from that and say, okay, time for a ceasefire. The Palestinian people have demanded that Hamas be their leaders. They are in league with what is an ideology, not a state. They could have had a state, but then they'd have to follow international rules of law. And so they are renegades, and they are being treated like renegades. This is what happens when you're renegades. You simply do not have the world's protection. I find it absolutely, absurdly imbecilic that the world would demand that Israel follow the international rules of law with a bunch of terrorist vandals. The Palestinians have done this to themselves. They have kept Hamas nourished and in power for over a decade and a half. This is what happens when your entire world is run by terrorists. Until you do something about it, you can expect more of this, not less. The Israeli Defense Force is going to obliterate Hamas. They should obliterate Hamas. They must obliterate Hamas. And anybody else who wants to perform genocide, not the fake genocide that Israel is being accused of, but a real genocide perpetrated by Palestinians against Jews. They want to kill everybody. They don't want a country of their own. They want war. Well, they're getting it. And I really don't know why anybody in Palestine is complaining. But there are a lot of people around the world, including the current Secretary of State for the United States, saying that there should be a ceasefire. There are no Palestinian civilians, except those that are trying to get out of town. Those people that are trying to get out of the Gaza Strip, I'm holding in abeyance. They realize that they're being run by an entire group of terrorists, and they're tired of it, and they're leaving. They're taking their children, so that Hamas cannot use the deaths of their children as some sort of anti-Israeli, anti-Jewish propaganda. That is a smart move. Those that keep their children there are trying to kill themselves off for the sake of the greater glory of the Palestinian freedom movement, whatever that is. Now look, I'm not anti-Palestinian. I'm anti-terror. I call things the way I see them. I want the Palestinians to live in peace with the Jews. But until that is their sole, shall we say, societal goal, they can't have a national goal insofar as they don't have a nation. Until their society decides that they will live in peace with the Jews, then what happens to them is predictable. And some would even say necessary. You simply cannot be run by terrorists who want to perform genocide on Jews and then accuse Jews in their reaction to this genocide of being genocidal themselves. All it does is create confusion, and that is calculated. The confusion of accusing your enemy of what you yourself are doing, well, that's a time-honored insurrectionist trick. And that's what's going on here. And that the world is buying in again is ridiculous. Once again, the big wrong pretext here. Too many Palestinian civilians have been killed. There are no Palestinian civilians, except those trying to escape. And some of those aren't civilians. They're simply terrorists trying to save their lives by getting out of the Gaza Strip before the Israeli Defense Force finds them. This is what happens when you allow terrorists to fight from your hospitals. This is what happens. I just can't believe the world is that stupid. The Israelis, for their part, started with agreeing to a daily 4-hour escape route. Today, they've announced a 6-hour window for the evacuation corridor along Salah ad-Din Street. And the United Nations is criticizing them for making a unilateral safe zone. Excuse me? Yeah, Israel decided that the Salah ad-Din Street would be used for people to funnel themselves out into a safe zone. And the United Nations is criticizing Israel for making that decision unilaterally. Who are they supposed to talk to? The United Nations? No, I'm sorry. The United Nations is a gang of anti-Jewish bigots. There's no point in Israel talking to the United Nations. As a matter of fact, there's no reason for any of us to be even considering the United Nations as some kind of actual, honest-to-goodness, functioning organization for world peace. The United Nations is a joke. And they need to leave the United States, in my humble opinion. A CNN team in Tel Aviv on Friday witnesses 10 interceptions by Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system from rockets fired from Gaza. And once again, if you're worried about Palestinian civilians, Mr. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, maybe what you should do is you should tell the Palestinians to stop shooting rockets at Tel Aviv. The Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, claimed on Telegram it had launched the rockets toward the city. Okay. Just keep after it. Keep launching rockets towards Israel. And then keep playing the cynical game of complaining about what happens when Israel strikes back. It is absolutely outrageous. And then there's this, United Nations employees that have been killed in the incursion, or not the incursion, but the actual war, now number more than 100. They've been working in the Palestinian territories. They've been killed in Gaza since October 7th. Well, this is what happens when you hang around with terrorists. When you hang around with terrorists, gosh, a Hellfire missile is about to hit you in the forehead. Maybe the United Nations should bring their people out of the Gaza Strip during a war. Hello? By the way, devastated, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees head Philippe Lazzarini said on X, as he called for a ceasefire. UNICEF, for its part, has called for an unconditional release of hostages in response to a video of a child being held by the militant group. The head of UNICEF, responding on Thursday to a video depicting a child hostage being held in Gaza, called for the unconditional release of all hostages. UNICEF is aware of an apparent video of an Israeli child being held hostage in Gaza. This, according to Executive Director Catherine Russell, speaking on X. Abduction of children is horrific, a grave violation. It is a war crime. We reiterate our call for an unconditional, immediate, and safe release of the hostages and protection of all children wherever or whoever they are. The armed wing of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group said it's prepared to release 2 Israeli hostages on humanitarian grounds. One is a 77-year-old woman. The other is a 13-year-old boy, both shown in a video released by the PIJ, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, a rival Islamist militant group to Hamas in Gaza. CNN will not name the 2 hostages at this point, neither will we, nor is it showing the video following a request by families of the 2 hostages for their privacy to be respected at this time. In a text statement, Abu Hamza, a leader of the Al-Quds Brigades, the military wing of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, PIJ, said the group is prepared to release 1 hostage for medical reasons, the second for humanitarian reasons for his young age. Hamza did not elaborate on the timing or circumstances under which the hostages might be released. It was the first time PIJ has released a video confirmation that it, and not just Hamas, is holding hostages. So they've bought into this hostage-taking war crime. Okay. There's plenty of rope in Nuremberg. This from 1 hour and 1 minute ago. The Arab League is demanding a complete ceasefire ahead of emergency Gaza summit in Saudi Arabia. The Arab League has demanded a complete ceasefire in Gaza. A statement by the Arab League said yesterday, humanitarian truce is not at the core of the Arab position, for the Arab position demands a complete ceasefire. Humanitarian truces are an idea that some people talk about to try to deal with a deteriorating humanitarian situation due to the war and the Israeli aggression. Israeli aggression. Israeli aggression. You mean Israeli reaction, don't you, sir? According to the statement, a large number of Arab leaders will participate, stressing that Arab countries will be well represented. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad will participate in the summit, the Syrian presidency announced today on X. The Arab League is an organization of Middle Eastern and African countries and Palestinian liberation organization. Its purpose is to promote closer political, economic, cultural, and social relations among the members and, of course, to kill as many Jews as possible. Okay, I added that part. In May, the Arab League readmitted Syria after an 11-year absence. Syria was suspended during a violent crackdown on anti-government protests. All right, so let's see what else. And then there's this. This just came out. This is CNN's update on what is happening. An increasing number of Israelis say their country should immediately begin negotiations with Hamas for the release of hostages held in Gaza, but should continue fighting while negotiating. This according to a new survey. Nearly 4 out of 10 Israelis, 38%, expressed the opinion in a survey by the Viterbi Family Center for Public Opinion and Policy Research at the Israeli Democracy Institute. That's a rise from 32%, saying Israel should negotiate while fighting, when the survey was last conducted about 2 weeks earlier. I can tell you what that negotiation ought to look like. The bombs, the rockets, the bullets, all will keep flying until you turn those hostages over. They can't. Hamas cannot turn the hostages over. They back themselves into a corner. If they give away the hostages, they give away their leverage to keep Israel from killing them. I'm talking about Hamas memberships and members and leaders. And so they have to keep these hostages handy. They lose the hostages. They lose their lives. And I don't know what kind of negotiation there can be with Hamas leadership at this point. I guess the only negotiation that you can possibly do is how long you fall after the trapdoor opens beneath your feet and before the rope snaps taut. That's about the only thing you can do. That's about the only thing you can negotiate. So Israel's going to have to go in and get them. And I hope they do. Although, I was kind of hoping that the United States Marine Corps could go in there and just move through Gaza while the Israeli Defense Force stood down and just found the hostages. But apparently that didn't go anywhere, but it sure is a good idea, and every day that passes, it seems like it's a better idea, at least to me. How about you?
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare.
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. One of the most infuriating things about this war between Israel and Hamas is the way Hamas tries to explain their conduct. And when they are nailed down with the obviousness of their malevolent evil, what's interesting to me is what these explainers, these spokespeople for Hamas, then do. This is a perfect example of how people who support Hamas deal with the realities of the terror inflicted on Israeli citizens. Check this out.
You say this was a military operation, but the result of it was that hundreds of civilians were killed.
Because the area is very wide, and there are many people there, and there was clashes and confrontation.
It's not confrontation. You invaded houses.
I don't have details what happened inside. But I can tell you that we didn't have any intention or decision to kill the civilians.
How do you justify killing people as they sleep, families? How do you justify killing hundreds
I
of
want
people?
to stop this interview. I want to stop this interview.
Yeah, that's what you do. When you're asked a question you can't answer, you just simply walk away. And that, by the way, is happening around the country with these same Hamas supporters. It's not that difficult to deal with. It's very simple. First of all, stop asking terrorists about the kind of terror that they inflict on others. It's pointless. They're renegade vandals. If you can prove that they have indeed gone out into the world and slaughtered people for their political beliefs, give them a trial, prove it definitively, and execute them on the spot. That's how you deal with this. You can't negotiate with these people. Now, as it comes to the United States, most of these people that are walking out and saying things like, free Palestine from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and so on, are basically, shall we say, regardless of their age, juvenile idiots. The outside of a Jewish campus organization at Boston University was defaced with graffiti reading Free Palestine, the latest incident of rising anti-Jewish bigotry, referred to as anti-Semitism, too nice a word, on campuses across America. Boston University Police and the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office are investigating the vandalism at the Boston, Massachusetts University after graffiti was found written on the window of a Jewish student organization. According to the organization's website, the Florence and Shafetz Hillel House at Boston University is a place of worship and a community center for the campus's Jewish population. It does not stop there. Moving down the coast a bit to New York, a New York diner owner found himself in a position where he lost a whole bunch of customers based on his support of Israel, but then gained throngs of new customers. This after the popular food delivery service was blackballed his diner, and some of his regulars boycotted him, and staff reportedly quit over his support of Israel. Peter Sadilis, the owner of the Golden Globe Diner in Huntington, Long Island, told Fox News he's been shocked by the community response. He lined his windows with posters of Israelis taken hostage by Hamas, as well as signs stating the Greek diners stand with Israel. Sadilis alleged that DoorDash drivers partnered with each other to stand against us for displaying Israeli flags and hostage posters. Quote, what they said was we were promoting hate and they were going to refuse. They were going to band together and stop delivering our orders. Sadilis also claimed that he'd asked some staffers and customers to search the diner and delivery company website, saying the establishment's listings disappeared after he noticed a dip in online orders. When asked about the claims by the New York Post, which first reported on the alleged boycott, DoorDash denied Sadilis' claims. Based on our investigation so far, we've not found any evidence to confirm any of the claims made by the diner owner, according to a DoorDash representative. See, if you get caught, then you just deny that anything happened. Juvenile crap. Ever since the diner attracted press attention, it's seen its customer base balloon, with patrons coming from as far as Florida to show support for the diner and Sadilis. That's good. And then there's this. This is incredibly disturbing. As we come to this broadcast, you know why we're here. We are here to report the news truthfully and fairly, and point out those who, shall we say, smear the facts and report propaganda. There's an amazing political cartoon, and I'm going to show it to you right this minute. Here it is. This political cartoon shows a Hamas terrorist with babies tied all over his body, and someone hiding in the background representing a supposed Palestinian civilian saying, "How dare Israel attack civilians?" That, by the way, came out of the Las Vegas Review-Journal and was published in the Washington Post until today. The internal uproar at the Washington Post over that political cartoon ended up causing the cartoon to be withdrawn. The paper's executive editor, Sally Busby, wrote, "Given the many deep concerns and conversations today in the newsroom, I want to ensure everyone who saw the notes sent out tonight by the Post's opinion editor, David Shipley, to Post readers and his staff. The Post cartoon, titled Human Shields, depicted a Hamas spokesman saying, 'How dare Israel attack civilians?' The cartoon was featured in the November 8th print edition of the paper and online, which was later deleted." So the Washington Post wants to throw in with anti-Jewish bigotry, huh? Well, okay. It's one of the things about terrorism. What you end up doing is you end up showing people just exactly who you really are. Washington Post included. Hour 2 is next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. What do? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. In short, we de-propagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That is not news. That's opinion, both mine and yours. And we discuss that, so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. How do you debate? You call us on the telephone, 817-379-2172. You find the chat room at Facebook, YouTube, X, Patreon, Rumble, etc. And we will be more than happy to discuss with you whatever it is that you like. By the way, John Williard has checked in on the chat room. John Williard, one of my great colleagues from Atlanta, Georgia. When I worked there, John was one of the greatest, he still is, by the way, one of the greatest professionals in broadcasting I'd ever run across. You think I have a good voice, you ought to listen to his. John Williard, thanks very much for dropping by. Sure appreciate it. He also said, hey, good content, which means that I'm talking about the right stuff. At least as far as John's concerned, that means a lot to me, Johnny. Thank you. So, from our unbelievable gall department comes the idea that Hunter Biden has come up with a new way of trying to defend himself. That is, sue everyone who makes allegations against him in defamation actions spanning front, back, sides, etc., wherever somebody has said something that they consider to be possibly demeaning, so that he can start working his way through defamation lawsuits, trying to kick up as much mud or dust in the air as he possibly can. That's just my opinion, by the way. The latest step in this particular strategy involves Hunter Biden and his defense attorneys filing a defamation lawsuit against former Overstock.com CEO Patrick Byrne, accusing him of falsely saying the president's son made offers to Iranian officials in exchange for $800 million. The lawsuit, filed in federal court in California, accused Byrne of saying that Hunter Biden reached out to the Iranian government in 2021 and offered to have President Joe Biden unfreeze up to $8 billion in funds for the country. The CEO is also accused of saying that Hunter Biden sought $800 million from the country in return. Hunter Biden's attorneys in the lawsuit called the statements, quote, completely false, unquote. They went on to say this, quote, these defamatory statements by Byrne are not merely false and not merely malicious, they're completely outrageous, unquote. Court documents add that Byrne, a staunch ally of former President Donald Trump, reposted the claims on X, a platform formerly known as Twitter, after Hamas launched an attack on Israel last month. The clear implication of Byrne's October 8th, 2023 post was that Hunter Biden, allegedly criminally in corrupt action, had contributed to the terror attacks by Hamas, according to the lawsuit. Now remember, if indeed this deal was broached, we don't know. It would be an $8 million, or is it $8 million or $8 billion? It's so hard to tell these days. Let me double check something here. It's $8 billion. If that was involved, then what ended up happening is that maybe the deal went through. Don't know whether any money changed hands, because remember, President Biden recently unfroze $6 billion of Iranian assets being held by South Korea. And then, of course, it was refrozen immediately after the Hamas attack on Israel. Or so they say. We really don't know, but that is the public relations that we currently have. I would say news, but it's not news. It's public relations. So we don't know. So it seems as though, once again, there are fingerprints, smoke, if you will. Is there fire? We don't know. However, the complaint continues. Court documents add that Byrne, a staunch ally of former President Donald Trump, there's the connection, has essentially allowed a clear implication of his activities, Byrne's activities, October 8th, that on the Post, that was Hunter Biden allegedly criminally and corrupted actions contributed to the terror attacks by Hamas. USA Today has reached out to Byrne for comment. The case comes as the president's son has launched a slate of legal battles in recent months. Hunter Biden earlier this year sued Rudy Giuliani and his lawyer for allegedly copying, manipulating, and distributing his records in total annihilation of his property. And, of course, the weirdness about that is that Hunter Biden disavowed the laptop at the beginning of this, probably during the time that any of this information was essentially released. It's not going to work, but like I said, if you throw enough dust and mud in the air, maybe some of it will stick, or maybe some of it will obscure the reality. I don't know. It's up to you to decide, but I'm looking at this going, really? He also filed a federal lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service for allegedly violating his privacy because two of its investigators revealed confidential information about his taxes. The hypocrisy on this is rife, considering how the entire Democrat establishment sought to rupture the privacy of President Donald Trump over his tax information, which they finally succeeded in doing. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Biden's attorney also filed an ethics complaint in the House of Representatives against Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene for what they call reaching, quote, a new level of abhorrent behavior, unquote, after she displayed sexually explicit pictures of Hunter Biden during a congressional hearing. For her part, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not finished. She is moving ahead with her political agenda, including the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. This being reported by USA Today, and they don't waste any time getting into the actual bias of the supposed journalism involved in the story. This is how the story actually reads. Washington. Conservative bomb thrower, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, moved to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas on yesterday, accusing him of breaking the law and blaming him for the migrant crisis at the southern border. Quote, enough is enough. We can't wait anymore in Washington, D.C., unquote. Greene made that statement on the steps of the Capitol building after filing a resolution to impeach Mayorkas. The Georgia Republican introduced the resolution as privileged, which means the House will have to take up the bill on the House floor within 2 legislative days. Lawmakers could move to block the resolution, known as a motion to table, to avoid having to take a formal vote on the effort. Greene said Representative Tony Gonzalez of Texas, who represents a border district, supports the resolution and will be working with her to try to build support among Republican members to impeach Mayorkas. She called House Speaker Mike Johnson Thursday morning to give notice of her impeachment push, but failed to get in touch with him. I hope Speaker Johnson supports it, said Greene. I think everyone in our conference, and I would hope Democrats as well would support impeaching someone that is breaking the law through his job and breaking his oath of office. There isn't a whole lot of argument to that statement? Department of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas is overseeing an entire behemoth, grotesque agency that accomplishes relatively nothing. 11 million people have come to the United States of America since President Biden has been in office and since Alejandro Mayorkas has been the Secretary of Homeland Security. On its face, there is no Homeland Security if 11 million illegal people can walk across the border and stay in the United States. He needs to go. Now. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is correct. But I find it truly disappointing that USA Today says, or starts their broadcast on this particular point as saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a conservative bomb thrower. That's not journalism. That's just gnashing of your teeth in a bar after you've had one too many martinis, complaining about somebody you don't like. It's not journalism. It's on the front page of USA Today. You've got to be kidding. And of course, I am not. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not get out of the spotlight that quickly. This from CNN. A Georgia man has been charged with threatening to kill GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, her family, and her staff. Sean Patrick Cerrillo, he's 34 years of age, of Macon, Georgia, called Greene's office Wednesday, threatened to shoot and kill her, according to the representative's office. Greene's office shared a recording of the threatening phone call with CNN. Quote, "I'm going to murder her. I'm going to shoot her in the expletive head and kill her. Okay? Tell the FBI." Well, they did. And he is arrested and charged. Yeah. He went on to say, "You're going to die. Your family is going to die. Your non-felonious life is going to die, Mr. Cerrillo. You have changed your life with a couple of ridiculous phone calls." Cerrillo is charged with using communication devices to make threats, according to a spokesperson with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia, a felony. CNN has not been able to determine whether Cerrillo has an attorney. I want to thank every single member of law enforcement who acted swiftly in response to this murderous threat. From Rome City Police, Floyd County Sheriff's Office, U.S. Capitol Police, the House Sergeant at Arms, and ultimately the FBI who made the arrest, every official acted quickly to put this man behind bars. "I'm not the only victim with this threat of violence," said Marjorie Taylor Greene. "My family is threatened. My staff is threatened. I even had to close my district office due to the potential of violence. It's wrong. It should never happen." Well, that's what happens when another political party makes what are irresponsible and scurrilous claims about what should happen to Supreme Court justices, conservatives in general. It's just Maxine Waters. Confront these people when they're trying to eat dinner. All this stuff. That led to a representative, Steve Scalise, getting shot. And so this is all part and parcel of the scorched earth politics of the Democrat Party. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying and terrible. Death threats, defamation lawsuits, ethics complaints, all this stuff flying back and forth. This is part and parcel of leftist political rule. And they dare to say that anybody who is running against them, specifically the Republican Party, is in chaos. This entire nation is in chaos. Authored by the American left. That's the way I see it. How about you? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. You also can reach us, by the way, by email. thewellsreport@frontier.com. The Wells Report at frontier.com. By all means, please do so. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, Rashida Tlaib has been censured, not censored, censured by the House of Representatives. What does it mean? Well, essentially, when it comes right down to it, not much. But we will explain it coming up in just a couple of seconds. Congressional censure of one of its members. What actually happens when that happens? We'll discuss more of that as we continue here on the Wells Report. Again, our telephone number 817-379-2172. Back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
It's Fishing Shirt Friday on the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Michigan Representative, Democrat Rashida Tlaib is an anti-Jewish bigot. She is proud of it. She is the only Palestinian American in Congress. And please understand that when she describes herself as Palestinian American, it's capital P Palestine and lowercase American. Tlaib called for a ceasefire, issued public support of Palestinians. The motion to censure her passed Congress for her remarks on the Israeli-Hamas war. It was a long time coming. She'd been talking about, as many people of her ilk do, that Israel is the scourge of the earth. She called for a ceasefire, public support, etc., and then she found herself on the blunt end of a censure resolution, focusing on her statements, and accused her of promoting false narratives regarding the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, and for calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. I can't believe I have to say this, but the Palestinian people are not disposable. We are human beings. Well, I'm trying to figure out, I've heard her make that assertion, and I'm going, are you? Are you really? Do human beings, as a group, even condone the idea that some among you should essentially break into an Israeli neighborhood and slaughter 1,400 people? Do human beings do that? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to dehumanize Palestinians. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to hold them to a human standard. But somebody needs to point out that they don't do that themselves. And somebody else has to point out that, gosh, you know, when you hold Palestinians to a human standard, a lot of them get hung. And so what do? If you leave them alone, they plot to kill their neighbors. If you reach out to hold them accountable for their plots to kill their neighbors, well, then you're Islamophobic. And that is not something that will be a long-term win for anyone, as Rashida Tlaib found out. The vote to censure her passed with a majority, 234 to 188, for President, with a handful of Democrats, 21 in fact, voting with most of the Republicans to pass the measure. A censure is considered a severe public rebuke of a legislator brought by other members of Congress, a form of punishment second only to expulsion. Here's what to know about passing a censure on a U.S. representative. The U.S. Constitution allows for Congress to punish its members for disorderly behavior. Censure is a formal disapproval intended to discipline members of the House. The censure is written in the form of a resolution the House votes on. To pass a censure means that a majority of the members support the criticism included in the resolution. Once the House comes to a majority vote in favor of the resolution, the censured person must stand in the well of the House as the resolution is read aloud as a form of public rebuke. According to the House website, 25 representatives have been censured before Tlaib. Some of them are Adam Schiff for misleading the American public and for conducting unbecoming of an elected member of the House of Representatives. Paul Gosar of Arizona, the Republican, posting manipulated video on his social media accounts depicting himself killing Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and attacking President Joe Biden. Charles Rangel, the Democrat from New York, censured for the first public rebuke in nearly 3 decades for an ethics scandal. David Jurenberger, the Republican from Minnesota, denounced July 25th, 1990 for unethical conduct and personal business dealings. What other members for discipline are available in the U.S. House? Censure is second most severe. The most severe is expulsion, which requires a 2/3 votes of the membership. Reprimand is less severe than censure. So now you know. And what will that actually lead to? It will lead to Rashida Tlaib parading around the Capitol grounds with the censure in her pocket as a badge of honor. Because shamelessness knows no bounds.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real. with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service, 817-379-2172. I have long differentiated between the Democrat Party and the real Democrats in that party. and the leftist, progressive, socialist, communist, anti-American fascists that have taken control of the party. I have watched as both of these two groups, real Democrats, American Democrats, have been at odds with the progressive members of their own caucus that essentially promise the end of the Democrat Party. And the end of the Democrat Party got a push yesterday when another real Democrat decided that he was going to step away from the United States Senate, not running for re-election. We are discussing Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Here is how CBS News reported the news that Joe Manchin was stepping away from his Senate seat.
I will not be running for re-election to the United States Senate.
The announcement from veteran Democratic Senator Joe Manchin shook up Washington today, raising new questions about whether Democrats will be able to hold on to their narrow Senate majority next year, and about whether Manchin will make a late entry into the 2024 presidential race, something he has not ruled out.
What I will be doing is traveling the country and speaking out to see if there is an interest in creating a movement to mobilize the middle and bring Americans together.
The 76-year-old centrist was facing a tough re-election fight against West Virginia's Republican Governor Jim Justice. And some top Democratic sources tell CBS News they now worry Manchin is going to explore running on the nonpartisan No Labels ticket, which they believe would pull votes from President Biden should Manchin launch a bid. Meanwhile, the Republicans hoping to unseat Mr. Biden took swings at each other last night. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who has risen in the polls in recent months, was attacked by political outsider Vivek Ramaswamy.
Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
I'd first like to say they're 5-inch heels, and I don't wear them unless you can run in them.
You have her supporters crapping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth. The easy answer.
There was concern today that the rhetorical fistfights only hurt the party and do little to upend a race dominated by former President Donald Trump, who skipped the debate.
You watched last night, look, the juvenile back and forth between Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley, those are not the kind of people who are going to beat the Democrats next November.
Behind the scenes, my sources close to several candidates say there is now a sense of desperation, public confidence, but private alarm over money running out, donors losing faith, and until the field winnows down, few are sure that any of that will change. Haley is increasingly seen by some power brokers as perhaps the best position, but not as a sure thing.
And so, Joe Manchin is roiling the R-O-I-L-I-N-G, roiling the politics as usual in Washington, D.C., and he should. And what fascinates me is the Democrats, who have long reviled Joe Manchin, this progressive wing of Democrat partyism, have long reviled Joe Manchin, now find themselves in a position where, well, they're kind of worried. He might run as a third-party candidate, the No Labels ticket. Well, that may indeed happen in the Republican Party as well. Remember, there are these trials afoot. There's an attempt to set aside President Donald Trump. What I would suggest is if the Republican Party somehow finds it successful to destroy President Trump's chances for re-election after skipping one term, then Donald Trump will run as a constitutional conservative. And for the first time in the history of the United States, we would have 4 choices for president. Joe Manchin, whoever runs for the Democrat Party, I'm still not convinced it's going to be Joe Biden. Whoever the Republican Party wants, let's say Chris Christie, because Chris Christie is exactly the guy they want. Or let's say Ron DeSantis, also a machine politician. And then Donald Trump. Of those 4, who do you think would win? 85% of American voters who voted for Donald Trump last time have already made up their minds. That's 62 million votes. In a 4-way chase for the presidency of the United States, that's plenty. And so, West Virginia Democrat Senator Joe Manchin not seeking re-election has changed things. He served in public office since 1982. He was elected to the House of Delegates in Charleston. The announcement he joined politics to serve the public and be a common-sense voice for the Mountain State. He also spoke about plans to travel the country to gauge interest in spreading a movement of bringing Americans together. It's a great idea. Absolutely is. And he's got some heavy-duty help. Joe Lieberman, for example. He's a part of the No Labels Party. So he spoke plans about gauging interest, etc. America Rising PAC Executive Director Cassie Smediel told Fox News that Manchin is a longtime Democrat outlier in both the Senate and the National Party. He just doesn't see the path for him as a Democrat on the ballot right now. I think that's very telling, she said on American Reports, adding that West Virginia's increasingly Republican bent present strong headwinds for his re-election bid. West Virginia is mainly a red state. West Virginia, wisely elected Joe Manchin for many, many terms because of the fact that they have their cake and eat it too. This is a guy who is a solid West Virginian, stands up for the state in most cases, and has made relatively few mistakes that would cost him his seat among West Virginia voters. He did go with this mistaken bill that was supposed to be the Recession Act. He made a mistake going along with that. He said it was misled. I'm sorry, Senator. You can't be misled. You've been around Washington too long. If you were misled, it's because you wanted to be, and that's fine. That's a decision you made. But make no mistake, the loss of Joe Manchin in the Democrat Party is going to sting. It absolutely is going to sting. Let's move on to the circular firing squad that is the Republican Party. Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who was ousted in an unprecedented fashion more than a month ago, railed on Republicans who voted for his removal and bluntly predicted one of his detractors would lose re-election this next year. In an exclusive interview with CNN in his new office yesterday, McCarthy said that GOP Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina did not deserve to be reelected in her competitive district and questioned the wisdom of his GOP critics for following the lead of Representative Matt Gaetz, whom he accused of leading the charge out of retaliation for an ethics complaint that he's facing. McCarthy, who has kept his powder mostly dry since Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana won the speakership after a chaotic 22-day episode following the ouster, made clear yesterday he has not forgotten about the 8 Republicans who voted to make him the first speaker in history to lose his job by a vote on the floor. McCarthy is essentially establishing himself as the Republican version of scorched earth politics, now working as hard as he possibly can to ensure that Democrats have a real chance at reestablishing their House majority after the next election. And he goes on to say a whole bunch of things. He said that his six of his GOP detractors were disruptors. He said he was particularly surprised that Nancy Mace and Tennessee Representative Tim Burchett joined Gaetz in the effort to oust him. McCarthy and the Republican Party would benefit tremendously if Gaetz was no longer a member of the House, he said. Oh, really? So he wants to get rid of 2 of his very narrow Republican majority members. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of good sense. It's absolutely ridiculous is what that does. And, of course, then after the latest election setback, the RNC chair, that one Miss Ronna McDaniel, is also in a position where she has said that she has major issues with Vivek Ramaswamy because of the things that he said about her in the Wednesday debate. This is where that stands.
I have not spoken to him since those comments.
My apologies.
You know, listen, he's at 4%. He needs a headline. I'm going to say what I've been saying to Republicans all along. Our headline should be about Joe Biden, the border, fentanyl, crime, terrible things that are happening in this country that the American people are looking to our party for solutions. But I also will stand by my record as RNC chair.
He said,
I am the one who delivered Michigan for the first time in 30 years when I was Michigan chair. We just won back the House under my leadership. And I'll add one other thing. In 2022, the RNC turned out 4 million more Republicans, and we would have won the Electoral College based on that turnout. Now, we don't do the messaging. That's a fact. We don't do it. And our candidates have lost their messaging on abortion. In Virginia, the Democrats spent $16 million on abortion ads. Republicans did not respond. In Kentucky, Democrats spent millions and millions on abortion ads. They did not respond. Now, the RNC doesn't do state races. We're a federal committee, so we weren't involved in those races on Tuesday. I know Vivek's kind of newer to the party. He voted for Obama, so he may not know that. But this is something we're going to have to get right as a party. As a suburban woman, I get this. Okay. You cannot allow Democrats to define us and say we won't give life-saving care for miscarriages or ectopic pregnancies, and then let it go unanswered, because then those lies become the truth. We are leading the way at the RNC on how to message on this issue. We saw great messaging from many of the candidates on the stage last night, and we're going to have to do this if we're going to win in 2024.
There have been reports that you have trouble with candidates, that they don't always, not exactly toe the line, but they don't always take your advice or direction. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they have pollsters, they have their campaign managers, and the candidates craft their own message. But the RNC, the suburban woman who runs the party, in 2022 before the election, sent a memo to candidates, me and Kellyanne Conway, and we called candidates and said, this is a huge issue for our party. We have to talk about better care for adoption and pregnancy crisis centers, and we have to take this issue head on. And if we put our heads in the sand and pretend it's not there, we're going to lose, because Democrats will define us. And you know, Democrats are extreme on this issue. They do believe in abortion up until the date of birth. They do believe what China and North Korea does in gender selection abortion. So if we can't talk about this issue and we allow them to define us, that's what they're going to do, because they can't run on anything else. They can't run on crime or the border or fentanyl or national security or inflation. So they're putting all their money in this basket.
Well, that's all very fine, Ronna McDaniel. You just made an excellent case for why you keep losing. And, I just got to be honest with you. The Republican Party keeps missing the boat. They keep missing the boat. Then there's this. CNN is doing everything they possibly can do to keep Donald Trump from becoming the next president of the United States, up to and including, if you're Hillary Clinton, comparing him to Hitler. And then there was this from the morning show on CNN.
Something that allows the next party. I mean, if I happen to be president and I see somebody who's doing well and beating me very badly, I say, go down and indict them. Mostly that would be, they would be out of business. They'd be out of the election.
I just want to pause for a second, because one, that's not what's happening here, as we've all laid out repeatedly, as the indictment does as well. Those aren't flippant, ha-ha, funny remarks. Like, that's insane.
Yes.
Why?
Take him at his word, by the way. If he says he's going to do this, I believe him. If we look back at the first Trump administration, maybe it will be the only one, maybe it'll be the first of two, Donald Trump would often call for the prosecution of his political enemies, whether it was James Comey, Andy McCabe. He called for the prosecution of Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. I'm going to defend someone like Bill Barr, who I wrote a negative book about. But Bill Barr had a line he would not cross. Bill Barr ignored those. He wasn't going to go out and indict Barack Obama or Andy McCabe. What Donald Trump's telling us here is, I'm going to pick different types of people the next time around. I'm going to pick people who don't even have that line. And that, to me, is really, really dangerous.
And Errol, just to be clear, there's no check on that, right? There's no body that is a check on that.
Well, I mean, look, people can defend themselves, and they can certainly try and either countersue or,
Sure, but I'm saying the initial act.
Well, that's right. No, that's right. In fact, that's why we have to be careful about who and how we pick our presidents. I mean, this is real serious stuff. I mean, and you do have to take him at his word. This whole idea that, weaponization, they're weaponizing the Justice Department by looking into what I did in Mar-a-Lago. A lot of that's going to fall apart, I think, when these witnesses come forward. They're not weapons. They're just people who, sort of work at Mar-a-Lago. But the rest of us have to take very seriously the idea that Donald Trump has announced that he's going to make that the standard. That's a campaign promise that he made. He's saying, if you vote for me, this is what I'm going to do to the justice system.
All right, so that's CNN, and what fascinates me is that it's like CNN's operating in a vacuum. Have they not seen what the entire Justice Department, FBI, intelligence community has been doing with Donald Trump ever since he came down the escalator in 2015? Everything they're accusing him of doing or wanting to do are things that have already been done to Donald Trump. And CNN is blissfully ignoring all that reality. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. As you know, I grew up in a space agency household. My father, John Howard Wells Jr., spent his entire professional endeavor working with contracting organizations for NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. He was on the leading edge of things you heard about and things you most decidedly did not hear about throughout his career. I remember waking up with my mother crying shortly after midnight when my dad came home one day in 1967. And he told a heartrending story of the end of life for Virgil Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and the rest of the Apollo 1 crew in a fire on the pad at Cape Kennedy, and it was Cape Kennedy then, Cape Canaveral. And so, somebody who stepped to the fore was a brilliant Gemini Project flyer who was Frank Borman. Frank Borman would oversee the investigation into that tragic fire that killed those 3 astronauts. And he would passionately testify before Congress and say that if those astronauts were here with us today, they'd tell us to move forward, to go to the moon, because the loss of life was indeed something that was a part of the price to explore the final frontier. And so Frank Borman found himself on Apollo 8. Apollo 8 was the first spacecraft, manned spacecraft, to fly the Saturn V rocket. He did so along with James Lovell and Bill Anders. And Apollo 8 left the Earth's orbit for the first time in any manned spacecraft history, and orbited the moon 10 times in Christmas of 1968. He died earlier this week in Billings, Montana. Borman not only was an astronaut, he left the Space Corps after the astronaut corps after the Apollo 8 mission because his wife wanted him to. She was afraid she was going to lose him. And he stepped away to become the CEO of Eastern Airlines. He's best known for his NASA duties. He and his crew, James Lovell, Bill Anders, were the first Apollo mission to fly to the moon and to see Earth as a distant sphere in place. Earthrise came from that mission. Today, we remember one of NASA's best. Astronaut Frank Borman was a true American hero. This according to NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. His lifelong love for aviation and exploration was only surpassed by his love for his wife, Susan. Launched from Cape Canaveral on December 21st, 1968, the Apollo 8 trio spent 3 days traveling to the moon, slipped into lunar orbit on Christmas Eve. They circled 10 times and headed home December 27th. On Christmas Eve, the astronauts read from the book of Genesis in a live telecast from the orbiter. Quote, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep." Frank Borman ended that broadcast with, "And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with a good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth." Lovell and Borman previously flew together during the 2-week Gemini 7 mission, which launched December 4th, 1965, and at only 120 feet apart, completed the first space orbital rendezvous with Gemini 6. Borman told the Associated Press in 1998, "Gemini was a tough go. It was smaller in the front than a seat of a Volkswagen Bug. It made Apollo seem like a super-duper plush touring bus." In his book, Countdown and Autobiography, Borman said Apollo 8 was originally supposed to orbit the Earth. The success of the Apollo 7 mission in October of 1968 to show the system reliability on long-duration flights made NASA decide it was time to take a shot to go all the way to the moon. Borman said there was another reason NASA changed its mind. The agency wanted to beat the Russians. Borman said he thought an on-orbit would suffice. "My main concern this whole flight was to get there ahead of the Russians and get home. That was the significant achievement in my eyes," according to Borman at a Chicago appearance in 2017. It was on the crew's 4th orbit that Anders snapped the iconic Earthrise photo showing a white and blue Earth rising above a gray lunar landscape. Borman wrote about the Earth as he looked from afar. "We were the first humans to see the world in its majestic totality, an intensely emotional experience for each of us. We said nothing to each other, but I was sure our thoughts were identical, of our families on the spinning globe, and then maybe we shared another thought. This must be what God sees." It's funny. Jim Lovell, also on that flight, would say, "We went to discover the moon, and instead we discovered Earth." And so Frank Borman has slipped the surly bonds of Earth, has reached out his hand, and now touches the face of God. We owe Frank Borman a lot. God bless his memory and his wife and his children and his legacy. This has been the Wells Report for this Friday, the 10th day of November, the birthday of the United States Marine Corps. Happy birthday, Leatherneck. The executive producer of this broadcast is Dirk Steele. The associate producer and publicist is Jube Dankworth. Find her at netmediaconsultants.com. I'm John David Wells. Have a great Veterans Day weekend. See you Monday. All right, wonderfuls. Thanks so much for being with us. Take good care, okay? Thank you, Brad. That was very nice. I appreciate it. You guys have a good day, and like I said, I'll see you Monday, okay?